about that. So my name's Joe Knopp. I've been out here, I think, at least once before. What I want to do is I'll tell kind of a fast version of my story, because I've already told it to a lot of you before. Because I actually believe the best indicator of how someone's going to lead and govern going forward is just who they are today, their character, and how they got here. So rather than stand up here and say I'm more pro-life than everybody else, and I believe in the Second Amendment more than everybody else, and in today's environment I'm better friends with President Trump than everybody else, I just rather you, on your own, make that determination just based on my journey to get here, and then I'll talk some about my passion for Ohio. So my story begins in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I always feel like I have to apologize because I wasn't born in Ohio, but at least our country was born in Philadelphia. And I have 2 boys and a girl. We've all stood on the floors of Independence Hall in Philadelphia quite a few times, where 2 pretty important documents were signed: the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. So we actually take great pride in coming from Philadelphia. My family situation was kind of rough. A lot of abuse, drugs, alcohol took place in my house. When I was 5 years old, the police actually took my mother, my 2 sisters, and myself away from our dad for a good reason, and we actually never saw him again to this day. Unfortunately, our mom was not really in a great position to take care of us, to raise us. So for the next 2 years, we just survived on the streets. Which sounds rough, when there's other street kids, you don't quite know how bad you actually have it. But for 2 years, we just survived, stole for food, lived in abandoned houses, crack houses. But what God directed my sisters to, 1 block over from where we normally hung out, was this really small church. And if there were like this many people at this church, it was, a packed house. It was called Bethel Temple, and it had a sign out front that said, if you stay for Sunday school on Sunday morning, we'll feed you free Dunkin' Donuts and orange juice. So free sugar, we were in, but our mom never actually went with us. So we would go, and they could tell we were street kids, we weren't dressed really well, and this quite a few people took notice to our situation. One particular gentleman named Wes Whitehead, actually on a cold November night when he tells his story, actually was thinking about us. God placed it on his heart, where are these kids? And he walked in and out of the abandoned houses in this area until he found us. And we were wearing t-shirts, we were freezing. He figured out which lady was our mom, got permission from her to take us to an orphanage. So when I was 7 years old, I got dropped off in a boys' orphanage in Philadelphia. My sisters went to a different location, about an hour and a half away, and we all stayed there until we graduated. I'm trying to see everybody through the poll here, so. But we all stayed there till we all graduated from high school, so from 7 to graduating high school. After high school, I wanted to make something of my life, and God brought an Air Force recruiter into my life and helped me understand that if I enlist, it'll help me get an education and turn me into a man. Maybe not quite a Marine like Jeremiah back there, but definitely into a man. So I enlisted in the Air Force that day. I was 18. Immediately got sent to Texas, spent about 6 months there, and then when I was 19, I got stationed at a place called Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and spent the remainder of my 6-year enlistment at Wright-Pat, working in the hospital. While at Wright-Pat, I went to Wright State University at night, got a finance degree. Most importantly, I met my wife, Angie. She's from the Dayton, Ohio area. So I've been in Dayton, Ohio for the past 30 years because of the Air Force, and because my wife's family is from there, and I didn't have a family to go home to. So Ohio has become my family and my personal land of opportunity. After I got out of the Air Force, I spent about 10 years in my own finance practice, just educating people how to work with money, how to relate with money, until a good friend of mine called from Hollywood, a guy that I grew up with. He was making movies, top shelf movies, working with Tom Hanks and other notable folks, but he was getting burned out on the messaging that was coming through Hollywood. So him and I would always have these debates and conversations about how the left, very strategically, decades ago, made a determination to take over education, entertainment, and media. And they knew those were the 3 places to indoctrinate all of us, and worse yet, indoctrinate our children. And we're seeing, 2 weeks ago when Disney kind of pulled back the curtain, what they're really thinking, what they're really saying behind the scenes. We know how right we actually were, a long time ago when we researched and understood what they were doing. So we determined that rather than run and hide from Hollywood, entertainment's not going away, media's not going away, education is sure not going away. Let's just combat what they're doing. So I gave up my finance practice, he left the studio model, and we started making movies just to get our message across. And we wanted to do it at the highest level so that not only everyone in the room here would come hear our message, but you could easily invite your neighbor who would not come to this event tonight, and it would not come to your church either, but they would go to a movie theater. So that was our goal, and we could just Trojan horse the gospel and the truth into these movies. First movie was called Woodlawn. It took on racial injustice in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1970s, where a black school got integrated into a white school. And to this day, people give credit to this Woodlawn High School football team locker room as the first place where whites and blacks start to get along. Second movie was a family-friendly movie called I Can Only Imagine. Worked with Dennis Quaid. And it's just a good story about how family comes in different shapes and sizes, but family is core and important to all of us. And then we did the pro-life movie called Unplanned, and our passion was to, and we felt like God was telling us it was time to make the movie. My wife swore that no one's going to go see it, because how do you have like a nice dinner on a Friday night and go to a movie theater and literally watch an abortion on a screen? But we figured God wants us to do it, He'll take care of it, who's going to show up. So, because we really felt it was time for the country to see what an abortion really is. So we made that movie. The whole country was talking about the life issue back in 2018, 2019. So as a result of that, making a movie, being passionate about the life issue, I started getting invited to about like 10 different state capitals to show the movie and to really express my passion for life. I got invited to the Capitol in DC by Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, James Lankford, some of the usual pro-life suspects, to again show the movie, and they would invite folks from the other side of the aisle to just quietly sit and watch a movie and see if it impacts your thoughts and reasons where you stand on the life issue. And I also it used to be real fun to say my next statement, but I have to be careful now. But I got invited to the White House by Vice President Pence, who got into politics because of the life issue. So him and his wife watched the movie, and they invited me to the White House just to talk about the life issue. And then they introduced me to the Trump family, most specifically Eric and Laura Trump, who also became champions for us. The more I got to spend time with Laura Trump, she used to be a TV producer, and we would have these great conversations about my passion. Why is the left burying all the truth about the Trump family, and no one's really telling their story? So in the beginning of 2020, the election year, the campaign year, I asked Laura, why don't you let me do a documentary on your family? We'll release it before the election so folks can see the honest truth about who you are. So they invited me to DC to meet with the family, and they gave me permission, which I live in Springboro, Ohio. I don't get invited to spend time with the first family very often, but I had this very surreal time in 2020 where I was on the bus tour with them, the Pink Women for Trump bus tour. I was the only guy on there without a gun, I'm pretty sure. But I got to hang out with them. We went to like 10 different states. But I also got to spend time at the White House with the president. And the one characteristic I love sharing about the president is I'm very sensitive to the listening. I try to teach my kids to listen, really get to know people. I swear President Trump's the best listener I've ever been around. And I say that the reason he was very successful in his company, for decades, he's in the service industry. The only way you can survive in the service industry is to truly serve your clientele the way they want to be served. So when he would go to a site visit, if this was his restaurant, he would bypass all the middle management offices who are going to have these fake spreadsheets about how well they're doing, they're working on improvement. He'd buzz right on by them, and he'd go to the wait staff. He'd talk to the waiter, the hostess, and say, what complaints are you getting? What can we do better? And they were so honored to talk to him, and they would tell the truth, because blue-collar America would just tell the truth. So that's why he was able to succeed so well in the service industry. It's also why we love and appreciate him so much when he was in DC, because we are who he cared about. And he was used to ignoring middle managers / politicians. He was used to seeing that they were just trying to be next to him and trying to better their own careers. So that was my experience with the Trump family. We released the documentary. You can watch it anywhere now. It's called The Trump I Know. Everybody we met with, they said, I wish people knew the Trump that I know. After that, when I was settled back in Ohio, never actually moved, but when we do move, we travel a lot. That's when quite a few people in Ohio asked me to consider running for a statewide office, which for me, never really gave a whole lot of thought about that. I knew I had a unique perspective on a lot of aspects of life, but never really thought that I would run for office one day. Quite a few people asked me to run either governor or lieutenant governor. Some of them are actually running in the race today alongside us. I spent about 3 to 4 months traveling the state, speaking at different events like this. And what I realized, very similar to Hollywood, is most people that are in the political space, it's all about themselves. And they're just trying to advance their career. And political science, by the way. Political science is the art and science of politics, which is, you're getting elected that next time and always preparing your resume for that next role. It has nothing to do with leadership or governing. So those were the people, unfortunately, that kind of brought me into the space initially. My wife had this great moment in the late summer of 21 where I said, you know what, this is not for me, these are not the people that I want to be aligned with. So I said, not the time for us. And she was really excited because I already dragged her through a pro-life movie, through a pro-Trump. She lost quite a few Facebook friends with that. But that's when Laura Trump, we've always been good friends. She's kind of been my mentor in the political space. She insisted I spend time with Jim Renacci, that her family really appreciates him. And at first, I thought that meant so I could help tell his story. He was already in the race. He was running for governor. He spent the past 2 years just, studying with universities. How do we fix this state? He was also very, just beyond angry with what DeWine was doing to the state. So I thought that he wanted me to help tell his story, and that led eventually to him asking me to run, to be his running mate, which I'm very honored to do. My passion for running for lieutenant governor alongside Jim, I have 3 kids. My 17-year-old is here. I have a 15-year-old, 12-year-old one just had a birthday, so I had to change my speech about a month ago. But I think I got it right. But kids, can you imagine, I think we're all adults in the room here, can you imagine being in high school with one of these things today? And then having teachers in elementary school trying to help you decide if you're a boy, if you're a girl, if you're one of the other 71 things that we can be. I'm not a biologist, but I have 3 kids, and I know that 2 are boys and 1 are girl, and I won't explain how I know that, but I was there when they were born. The doctor agreed with me. They said it very quickly, very easily. It's so crazy. Can you imagine someone from, 20, 25 years ago waking up today, the conversation that I have to talk to you about to make sure you understand that, Jim and I, we're not transgender. We don't want boys going to a girl's bathroom. Because, by the way, we saw what happened in Virginia where the girl got violated, and who got arrested? Her dad got arrested at the Board of Elections. Last week, I think it was in California jail. Guess what? There was transgenders can be in the girls' prison. And a girl got pregnant somehow. I wonder how that occurred. Now, guess what? Guess who's lining up to be transgender these days in California? All of the males in jail. They all want to be in the girls' prison right now. It's just insane, this crazy world that we live in today. We have a governor today that I think we all agree needs to be out of office. He has overstepped every single boundary. He's been doing this for 45 years, an elected official. Growing up in Philadelphia, our forefathers would roll over in their grave if one person was in office for 45 years. George Washington, they wanted him to be king. And you know what he said? No. Do you think the White House said no to being king? I don't think so. I think he thinks he is king by the way he ruled and operated us. So we all agree. And my reason for getting into lieutenant governor is because I need to line out of office for myself, for my family, for my kids, for all of you. So where we stand today is, there's 3 folks in the race running against DeWine. Well, the big concern now is we're going to split the vote. Well, one guy got in. I literally have not seen him on the campaign trail, and my son can attest. I am every day, 7 days a week on the campaign trail. Have not seen one guy. He got in because the guy who chose me did not choose him, and the articles are out there. There's no denying that. We have another guy in the race who, for the right reasons, stepped out against DeWine. The problem is just struggling with the campaign. A couple $100,000 campaign checkbook. There's 3 violations out against him. We now know heading to another level of court. I just don't think we can give an $80 billion checkbook to a guy who's struggling to balance a couple $100,000 in his own checking account. That is a problem that will be, it's already been exploited. And the other issue is, I don't want anybody in this room wasting a vote against DeWine. Because what's happening with this other guy now, it's possible he'll be disqualified at some point in time. So that would be a wasted vote. We use Fabrizio as our pollster because that's who President Trump tells us to use. It's the one organization that he trusts. Right now, the polls are out. We didn't do it. A Senate candidate actually did this poll, but I know for a fact the polls for both the Senate and for the governor's race is sitting on President Trump's desk today. It says DeWine's at 35, Renace's at 35, others are at 20, and the independents undecided are at 10. The only candidate for governor in the race today who has a chance of beating DeWine is Renace. President Trump knows that. We'll be with him this Saturday. I'm sure most of you will all be there with us. A three-way race, the only thing that does is there's a risk of diluting the anti-DeWine vote where we all might be stuck with DeWine for another 4 years. We cannot allow that to occur. So, it's funny, people ask me, how are you going to unite the Republican Party once you win the primary? And I said, I drive by about 1,000 churches getting from my house to here, and they all have different denominations written on their walls, but yet they say they read the same Bible. Uniting our party is going to be really hard, but we don't have a choice. We have to agree on what we all single-handedly agree on. There are issues, the life issue. Like Gibbons was saying earlier, I think you know where I stand on life. I'm not going to go down that road. I've been fighting for that life for years now. I've been front lines in that space. We have to get DeWine out of office. There is only one path to getting him out of office. So please, we look forward to your vote. Thank you for the opportunity to share my journey, my path to get here. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.